Hello, I'm Pastor Mark. And welcome back to our Holy Week devotions. I want to read to you right now from Matthew chapter 26, starting at verse 69. It says, "While Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him, saying, 'You also are with Jesus of Galilee.' But he denied it before them all. 'I don't know what you're talking about,' he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another servant girl saw him and said to the people there, 'This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth.' He denied it again with an oath, 'I don't know the man.' After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, 'Surely you are one of them. Your accent gives you away.' Then he began to call down curses, and he swore to them, 'I don't know the man.' Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken, 'Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times.' And he went outside and wept bitterly." Most of the time when we consider this passage, we look at it from Peter's perspective, don't we? I mean, what it must have been like for Peter here. But right now, just in this moment, I would just briefly want to look at this from Jesus' perspective. That's not usually what we do, but I want to do that because we know Jesus knows about this happening, right? I mean, he predicted it would happen. He said, "Peter, before the end of the night, you're going to deny it 3 times that you know me." And then it happened. 3 times Peter denied he even knew anything about Jesus. And we know that Jesus knows as this is actually going on because Luke tells us in his gospel that when that rooster crows, Jesus, even though he's on trial, he turns at that moment and he looks directly at Peter. And I often wonder what it must have been like, what it must have felt like for Peter to look right in the eyes of Jesus at that moment. But right now, I ponder what it must have been like for Jesus to look at his friend directly right in the eye right then. Because in this very moment, everything Jesus has been going through that we've been talking about, it becomes personal. It's personal now. You see, it's easy for us to try to separate ourselves or to minimize what's happening here by focusing on how grand everything is. And so it seems like it's less emotional, right? Jesus is going to death for the sins of the world. Everyone deserts Jesus. Everyone turns against him. The bigness of it all kind of dilutes the personal pain of it all, I think, when we don't see the pain that Jesus is experiencing in it. But I think a good argument could be made that Peter is Jesus' best friend. And when the whole world has turned against Jesus, his best friend joins them. His best friend denies ever even knowing him, leaves him alone, leaves him abandoned. And at that point, all this big grand stuff becomes very personal. If you've ever had a friend who's abandoned you or ignored you, especially during difficult times in your life, you might be able to understand a little bit how Jesus might be feeling here. But for Jesus, it's much worse than anything you've ever experienced because he knows the worst is yet to come. And knowing that the worst is yet to come, he stands looking his friend in the eye, a friend who has now just vehemently denied knowing him. That hurts. I'm sure it hurt Jesus. And Jesus did it for you. God bless.